Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your enjoyment. This particular story is called An Awkward First Meeting, written by Echoing Cascade. Death is inevitable. Death is without pity. Death is relentless. Death is bored out of his skull. In the middle of nowhere, to the right of somewhere, just above Woman's Wear, sat the skeletal figure of the Grim Reaper, waiting for the big bang. Stupid Chase Monkey just had to do it. A human scientist had just finished building their first matter transporter, and, for its unveiling, chose antimatter as its cargo. That was stupid enough, but then he doubled down and he picked the square root of -1 as a distance. At which point, like any sensible lady would, reality picked her things, flipped life the finger, and slammed the door on the way out. Now I'm stuck here all alone, waiting for Father Time to wake up and restart the universe. This was not the first time something like that had happened, and Death was starting to wonder if there wasn't a better way. It is always a human who ends the universe prematurely. If there was a giant "do not pull this plug" sign floating in space, the paint would not be dry, that the human would have already pulled it twice. There are many rules that everyone and everything need to follow, even death. Then again, those rules only apply while the universe exists. Death grinned and began to turn back time. An idea formed in his not-so-empty skull. David Stand was about to flip the switch that was either going to earn him all the scientific awards or tear the universe apart. Either way, this should be interesting. Before he could reach the switch, however, all the lights went out. He and the dozen or so colleagues of his looked around in confusion. Okay, can someone check the circuit breakers? Kira, a young Horus intern, spoke up. Sir, Darwin Station is powered by solar winds, and everything is made in such a way that a power surcharge is impossible? David pondered this for a moment. Did we forget to pay the electric bill then? Half a dozen hands simultaneously hit their owner's face with an odd clapping sound. That lame joke. David smiled and became pensive. Pretty sure one of these sounded like someone dropped a bunch of dominoes on the ground. Death was about to make his grand entrance when he heard the joke and had facepalmed. He quickly rallied and appeared in front of the other scientists. The lights turned back on and now stood in the middle of the room the skeletal figure of the Grim Reaper. I am the Alpha and the Omega. The shadow cast by his cloak started to glow and lights flickered. I was there at the beginning, and I will be there after the end. His eyes began to glow a sinister red. Gods and mortals are nothing but weight to my scythe. I am... While everyone was either processing or panicking or running away, David was not amused. Yeah, we get it, you're Batman. Could you kindly frack off? We're kinda in the middle of something here. The shadow of death disappeared, the glow in his eyes died down, and the lights returned to normal. Batman, seriously? He moved towards Kira and, in the deafening whisper, asked, Is he like, and made a crazy gesture with his finger. Kira barely managed to shake her head no, while behind him a couple of scientists, more familiar with David, shook their hands, indicating, yeah, sorta. Death turned to face the man who would destroy the universe. You cannot activate that device. It would destroy the universe. David calmly walked towards Death and looked at him straight in the eye sockets. Listen, Gary, mind if I call you Gary? Before Death could answer, David continued. How do we know that you're telling the truth? Death was still digesting the whole Gary thing, so it took him a moment to answer. Why would I lie? David scratched his chin. Fine, we'll stop the experiment. You know why it fails, though? Using antimatter was already pushing it, but using the square root of -1 was several steps too far. So, what you're saying is that antimatter is okay? Death squinted at the insane, barely evolved monkey until one of the senior scientists slapped David in the back of the head. David massaged the back of his head. That was a joke. Fine. I will be careful, I swear. Hopefully I will never have to pay this station a visit ever again. As he faded away, Death pondered what had just happened. How he basically broke the laws of the universe. How he made his presence known to mortals. And about something far more important. Gary, I've never had a nickname before. I like it. End of story. Story number 2. The Wound, written by Benny W.M.H. We call it The Wound. When it opened in real space almost 100 cycles ago, no one noticed until it was too late. Located in between the stars, we've wound festered and grew. Our scientists estimated that it had already expanded tenfold its original size by the time the survey vessel found its energy signature. A research station was established near the wound to chart its growth and learn more about it. None of our best minds could figure out what caused it or how to stall its spread. The only thing left for us to do was to find out what was on the other side. All communications we attempted to send through the wound received no reply. None of the signals coming from it made any sense. Every drone we sent into it did not return. Finally, we decided to send a crewed mission into this anomaly, hoping that the crew can accomplish what artificial intelligence could not. None of us at the time knew that we were about to invite the extinction of all life into our galaxy. The ship that we sent into the wound did not return, but something else did. Through the wound, the contagion spread. They spilled forth from the tear in our reality and ripped into the research station. There was only time for the researchers there to send a single panicked transmission before they were consumed. For a few terrifying cycles, we did not know what was happening. Worlds would report the occurrence of natural disasters all happening at once, followed soon by desperate calls for help and resigned prayers for the forgotten gods. Silence always followed after that. It was as if the shadow had fallen over the sector of space. We tried to understand, of course. Ships, then fleets, were sent to assist and investigate. None ever returned. It was only when one of our core worlds started experiencing these unnatural natural disasters that a concerted effort was made by the administration to mount a serious defense. The assembled fleet was one of the largest gatherings of ships in recent galactic history. Whatever had come forth from the wound would be met with the collective intellect, might, and will of a unified galaxy. We were nothing but prey to them. Our first look at the contagion drove several of our allied species insane. Over 1,000 biological forms approached the core world of Obiro, some several times more massive than our dreadnoughts. These forms rapidly disgorged millions of small organisms that swarmed forward towards our fleet. The massacre was recorded in the broadcasts that were streamed to the trillions of civilians watching our grand defense of Obiro. Living weapons tore into the armored hulls of our ships, our own fire doing little to thin the onslaught before us. Once a ship was breached, it became the contagion's hunting ground. The ship's crews were stalked and slaughtered, consumed completely by the creatures beyond our understanding. As our fleet died above, so did the planet below us. All we had left from that battle were the transmissions. Not a single being survived contact with the contagion. And so it was that panic set into the collective psyche of the galaxy. The administration almost entirely dissolved overnight. The unity we had broken. There was nothing any species could do but flee. Flee and hope that the contagion set its sights upon another fleet, another species, another victim. The trillions in our galaxy now numbered only in the billions. Hope is a strange thing. All hope has been lost. There was nothing that we could do. But amongst those left in the administration, some of us dared to hope again. Some numbers were crunched, some observations made. The spread of the contagion was slowing. Their numbers, while still teeming, did not seem as impossible as some cycles before. And most of all, they seemed distracted. Fleets of living ships would ignore fresh planets, sometimes even disengage from battle, and simply leave. We tried to understand, of course. Small scout ships shadowed the contagion fleets where they went. Soon, it was discovered that a mass of living vessels were heading back to the wound. When some of our escorts finally made it past the contagion to observe the wound, we found them. The wound had grown large enough to swallow and also perhaps spit out a planet whole. And that seemed to be exactly what had happened. Beside the wound was a planet where none had existed. But there was more than a planet. The fleet lay in low orbit over the planet, engaging in defensive action against the contagion swarm. The fleet was fighting for its life, and it was winning. Brilliant lances of life and fire erupted from these ships and obliterated contagion forms. And the fleet fought above, so did the planet below. We could not make out the very many details of our position away from the planet. What we did see, however, rekindled the fires of hope within us. On the surface of the planet, an incredible war was raging. Swarms of contagion were ravaging the planet's defenders, held off by armies of mechanized warriors. Even from orbit, we could see the red laser fire cutting through the contagion like a scythe. The battle line shifted all across the planet, some pushing forwards, others buckling and retreating. But the line held. Listening to their transmissions, our translators worked to understand and communicate with these beings. If we could speak to them, to let them know that we were coming to help, perhaps life in this galaxy could be saved. We can understand them now, but all attempts at communication have been unsuccessful. No matter. What remains of our galaxy has been assembled, and we once again are flying forth to meet the enemy. With a little luck, perhaps we shall make friends with these humans. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and patrons. Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Lord Azrakal, Dragzoon WRE, Holly Sister, Ambrose Cattell, and Quantum Wednesday. Thank you very much.